Hello, my name is Mr. Chipman, and I teach biology and AP biology at Murray High School in Murray, Kentucky. And this is 5.6 Pest Control Methods, AP Environmental Science. Here we go. Conventional pest control methods. So when you see the word conventional, these are things that are normally used, right? Conventional pest control methods attempt to eliminate them using pesticides, which are just chemical treatments. This graph is a good one for helping us understand sort of what happens. You know, if you allow pests to grow out of control, they'll sort of grow to, reach carrying capacity, that whole thing that we know is going to happen. And so by establishing some sort of control over them, we limit their growth. Makes fairly simple sense, right? There's several different kinds of pesticides. There's fungicides and there's herbicides, and look at all the different things. Herbicides, insecticides, these are some of the ones that we see around here more frequently. Rodenticides, molluscicide, never heard of molluscicides before. An ovicide, I guess that gets rid of eggs. You can see that there's a lot of different kinds of chemicals out there in order to eliminate different kinds of pests. Depending on the type of crop you have, I'm assuming that there's going to be different pests attracted to it. Bugs and weeds are going to be the most prominent types of pests, and so eliminating them is going to increase yield, which is going to increase profit and food and all the things that we get from crops. Going back here real quick before we talk about genetically modified crops. Benefits, obviously, are going to be increased yields. They're going to be more stable production. Lots of different things that you can think about. This is they're reliable control methods, and they're good. They're expensive. That is a drawback. Another drawback is that organisms can develop resistance against them. That doesn't mean that the bacteria have a meeting and decide that they're going to resist. It means that in a population that is continually exposed to certain types of stimulus, you'd expect that if normal mutations take place, then eventually a mutation will come about that will allow one of those to survive. Not because, because the organism had a better desire to survive, but because of random. But because of that random, that organism lives, reproduces, makes more things like itself, and you have populations of resistant organisms, which is never good. Pesticides also contaminate soil, they contaminate water. This is not good either. Nobody wants these things on them. Some of them are extremely dangerous. Ideas like biomagnification as well. Something comes along and eats the caterpillar that has been treated with a insecticide, and then it eats 10 of those, and then the next thing eats 10 of those, then it's effectively eating 1,000 or 100 caterpillars that are infected with this pesticide, which is not good. Biomagnification. Genetically engineered crops. And so what is this? This is basically engineering a crop that is ready to have a herbicide sprayed on it, for instance. Roundup Ready is one of the first of these. And so essentially what this is, Roundup kills corn, right? It kills soybeans, it kills cotton, it kills pretty much everything that's green. And so if you could make some corn that is resistant to Roundup, then all of your problems will be fixed, right? You can just spray Roundup on the field, it kills everything that's green, and the corn lives. And that worked really well for a couple years until the weeds developed Roundup resistance. And again, it was just a mutation in the weeds, which you'd expect to happen. And those weeds populated, and now you have Roundup Ready weeds along with Roundup Ready corn. It's not good, right? And there's some other ethical debates about the idea that a company can sort of patent life, right, and have a patent on a particular strand of DNA. And then farmers who depend on their own crops for seeds year to year can have those seeds taken from them because they happen to have Roundup Ready seeds in them too, which this company owns the patent for. You get the idea, right? It's sort of a monopolization of life, which is, whether or not that's wrong, that's beyond the scope of this class. but you get the idea. So let's talk of some examples here. This is a great example of DDT, which is not only is it one of the most famous wrestling finishers of all times, Jake the Snake Roberts, but it is also a chemical that was sprayed on mosquitoes, particularly in the 70s in this country, still in some countries being sprayed widely, and is very good at killing mosquitoes. It's also very good at killing eagles. Fish would eat the mosquito larvae that were, or even the plankton would eat the mosquito larvae that were infected with DDT. And then, of course, those plankton would be eaten by bigger things, and those things by bigger things, and those things by bigger things, and eventually that bigger thing eaten by an eagle that has effectively consumed thousands and thousands of mosquito larvae at that point. And that is called biomagnification, mentioned earlier. And DDT's effect on eagles was not the eagle itself, but their eggs. Actually caused their eggs to be brittle, and so when the eagle would sit on the eggs like birds do, it would crush all the eggs, kill all their young. If you kill all the young, you eliminate a species. Eagles were critically endangered for a while, and now have returned their population since we stopped spraying DDT. It is not good for you. BT corn is another one that I've actually just recently learned about, and it's interesting. There's basically some corn that has been engineered with a gene from a particular soil bacteria. This soil bacteria produces a toxin with this gene that is toxic to things that might eat it, which makes sense, right? And so you put this gene into corn, and then the little guy with the fork and knife there eats that corn and then dies. Of course, the risk here is that you could develop BT-resistant caterpillars as well. And so very, very real problem like we've talked about. So yeah, actually, a student just did a project on BT corn, which I thought was fascinating, and they actually put non-BT corn in bags of seeds of BT corn in order to sort of stave this off. So really cool. Let's look at a practice problem. Farmer applies the same insecticide year after year. Over time, the crop experiences more pest damage despite consistent application. Which claim best explains this outcome? Okay, before we go down to ABCD, we're going to talk about this. We'd expect this to happen, right, because of the development of mutations in the pests that are going to allow them to be resistant to the pesticides as well. Let's go find that ABCD. Insecticide reduces the farm's overall biodiversity, increasing pest populations. That doesn't make any sense. Those two things don't make any sense together because you don't increase populations by decreasing populations. Artificial selection favored resistant individuals, so the pest populations evolved resistance. Makes sense, right? Because artificial selection is the idea of we choosing the things that live and don't live, and this is going to favor those pest populations. I like that one. Let's look at C. Genetically modified crops introduce new pests. They don't. Insecticide increased soil salinization. Don't know why that would happen. B is the correct answer. This is an example of a problem that you may not be very sure on the correct answer, but the other ones are definitely wrong. Sometimes it is good to read all four choices just to give yourself a well-rounded view. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.